Thanks for taking the time today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I saw Snapshots the other night. It was really, really good, really moving, and very well acted. I'm curious, how did the project originally come about?
Well, I was approached by a producer I know who knew the woman whose true story it was, and she had written a script and was raising the money, Jan Karan.
Mm-hmm.
So she'd come to me and said, "I want you to read this about 3 women and a weekend at a lake house, and tell me what you think." So I read it, and then we met with Jan. She was up in Oakland, and she came down, and we talked about the script, and I had some comments just about, the direction of it and stuff, and we started sort of working together, developing it a little bit more into a shooting script.
Mm.
And then they called me one day and said, "We have the money to shoot."
Perfect.
This was last winter. I was like, "What?" They were like, yeah, we can do it. So it was pretty exciting. All of a sudden we went into, green light mode. We're going.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. What was it like assembling the wonderful cast?
Well, it was great. It was really exciting when Piper Lloyd read the script, and my friend Shana, who was helping cast, said she really liked it, but she wants to talk to you. So I called her and got on the phone, and we talked all about it and the role and, and how I saw the movie and the story. And then, we found out Piper was in.
Nice.
And Brooke Adams is an old friend of mine. We acted together in the movie Car Wash in the 70s. And
Wow.
my first film, The Babysitter's Club, I had her, she played Skylar Fisk, Sister Basic daughter, Skylar's mom.
Oh, okay.
In The Babysitter's Club. And Brooke and I had a big show together on 30-something. So it was Brooke's an old dear friend. So I sent her the movie to look at. And, the casting was really fun. Brett Dyer, who played Z, Louise's husband, he's a regular on Jane the Virgin.
Okay, right.
Emily Baldoni, who played Allison, the granddaughter, her husband is Justin Baldoni, who's also the other love interest from Jane the Virgin.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah,
It's all connected.
Yeah, everybody's connected. It was great.
That's awesome. What was it like working with the legendary Piper Laurie?
Piper is just great. She's just great. You don't have to say really anything to Piper. She's so subtle and so specific and just, such a strong actress. She was just lovely to work with.
Now, I'm curious, you've done plenty of film, plenty of TV. Do you prefer one over the other, or are they kind of equal to you?
Directing film or TV?
Yeah.
Well, let me see. I mean, film is always exciting because when you're the director, you have a little bit more freedom than being a director in television. In TV, you're hired to do a look, and you're giving the producers an episode of their show. They've already established the look, they've already cast it. You're stepping in as a guest.
Okay.
And you've got a writer on set, and you're trying to do as great an episode as you can do of their show. Mm-hmm. And on film, you're as a director, you're casting you're hiring the production designer, you're hiring the director of photography. See, in TV, they've already been hired by the producers. But in film, you're starting from scratch. And as a director, you get to pick the editor, you get to pick the cast. You know what I mean? You get to really assemble the whole team and come up with the look. So it's
more freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, same question, but this time in regards to acting for film and TV.
For movies, obviously if they're bigger budget movies, you've got way more time to shoot the scene. So as an actor, you can get more takes and you just have more time on set. In TV, boy, it is so rushed. It can be. There's so much to do, that as an actor, you might get 1 or 2 takes and they're moving on, So it's like, you better nail it. You better have your shit together. There's no working up to anything,
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's why I always say, the general audience has no idea how good actors are for television, because they really have to deliver really almost right away, and that's a whole other skill set.
Interesting. Now, speaking of TV, I know you directed an episode of the Larry Sanders Show.
Yeah.
That is one of my all-time favorite shows. What was it like working on that? What was the experience like?
Oh my God, that show was crazy. It was 3 days. It was 3 days rehearsal and 2 days shooting. So, you know, and the shooting, like in situation comedies, you know, like you know, the Roseanne Show or any, you know, they work like Mad About You. All those shows, you'd rehearse for 4 days like a play, and then on the 5th day they bring in an audience, and like a play, you perform with an audience, but the cameras are shooting you. Okay.
Right.
So when in single camera film, it's basically there's no rehearsal. You shoot every day, scenes all day long, but there's no audience. So it's more like you're shooting like a movie.
Okay.
And what was interesting about the Larry Sanders Show, it was sort of a hybrid. There was no audience. The set, like that whole bullpen and his stage where he did the show, and then the backstage corridor, and it went all the way around, and it wrapped around to where the writers, the bullpen. Yeah. So there was no setup like for an audience. It was shot like single camera film, but they'd rehearse it for 3 days, and then you just powered through shooting it for 2 days.
Wow.
And, you know, all those walkways that they would do where they would walk down the hall, the director of photography held the camera and was on rollerblades.
Really?
Okay? Yeah. He'd be on rollerblades, holding the camera and skating backwards down the hall as they would be walking forward. Because it had that whole handheld kind of documentary feel, right?
Right.
So it was so if he was walking, it would have been too bumpy. You know, so the fact that he was on rollerblades, he could have it a little more, not as bumpy, but still have the hand. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I couldn't believe it.
That is insane. That's like he pioneered the director of photography. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. He pioneered an entire look that was done on that show.
Right. That's very cool.
I did the second. The one I did was actually the second to last one.
Yeah. Well, what was it like working with Garry Shandling?
He was just great. You know, he's just innately funny. You know, he'd be cracking jokes and stuff, but you know, serious and you know, professional, and there was lines, and you know, wanted to do the work. But he was a funny guy. He made a lot of jokes. We went to a party. I got to tell you this. I went to a party once, a Christmas party. This is years and years ago. And it was at Meg Ryan's house. She had a huge house at the time in Bel Air. And I was invited with a group of friends. And we went in, and I was in this big entranceway. It was this big sort of Spanish colonial house. And Garry was there.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Melanie." He says, "You know when you see people and they look like the people?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, tonight, they are the people."
All right.
Yeah, because like there was Steven Spielberg and there was Barbra Streisand and there was but not people. Hey, that looks like Steven Spielberg. No, that is them.
That must have been quite a night.
It was quite a night. But I just thought that, you know, I thought that line was so funny.
He was great. Oh my God.
Just great. Just great.
Now, do you prefer comedy over drama or the other way around?
You know, I love comedy, and I'm one of those actors that, you know, like I love shtick, and I'm good with comedy and I'm good with drama. So I kind of love both. You know, like Snapshots had a lot of good drama, but you know, Jane the Virgin, it's got such comedy. It's got drama as well, but there's such a level of comedy to it too. I kind of like both, I guess. I mean, I've done both, so.
Now, would you would you say a lot of your work is are dramedies, hybrid of both?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff is. You know, tonally it can be tricky because you can't go too sticky, but you can be laughing and in a second you want to move them to tears. And I always thought that was the height of entertainment. You know, as if somebody was laughing and then all of a sudden they've got a lump in their throat.
Yeah. To maintain that balance must be really tough.
Yeah. It can be tricky. but good tricky.
Yeah. So yeah, for Snapshots, what do you hope audiences take away from the film?
You know, it's a story of love to me, and a certain kind of love, obviously. But what's interesting in the movie is nobody's really labeling themselves. Like, it's just love, you know. And if it happens to be someone of the same sex, it's like you could see where that happened. And I thought that would be a really amazing message, as opposed to be, oh yeah, it's a lesbian movie or it's a gay guy movie or you know whatever. That it's just a movie about this woman and this couple she met, and you know how this woman took her heart in a way that nobody ever had. So what I loved about it also was it was like two married women. It was just that had relationships with their husbands. You know, it sort of gets into how you can love a few people, and there can be different kinds of love, you know.
Right. And now the film, the location's beautiful. Where was the film shot?
Well, we shot in California in southern Los Angeles, or Table Rock Lake, Missouri. We shot at a lake out here, a man-made lake called Lake Malibu in Agora Hills. We were there for 3 days, and then we shot at a little housing compound in Encino. It was 3 houses sort of all together, and they'd taken down all the fences, and it was sort of like a little mini studio. And we were there, and we shot the house in the past and the present, and then we did some shooting in Missouri by the lake, just to get all the establishing shots and the big overview shots and stuff.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, the look is just perfect.
Oh, good.
Beautiful sunny landscapes. The lake is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It really works.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I'm curious, who are some of your influences, director-wise?
Director-wise, oh God. You know, there were. Oh, geez, that's a good question. You know, I was in the movie, Costa Gabras' movie, Missing.
Oh, yeah, Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, I loved him. Paul Mazursky. You know, it was funny because we only had one camera. We only had 15 days with Snapshots. So I didn't want it to, you know, I wanted it to just sort of be like a classic, elegant sort of, you know, storytelling, you know, not real fancy, not real bells and whistles, you know, just a simple, so that the directing didn't really get in the way of the story and you could just get the story, you know.
Nice.
So I guess kind of all those great classic movies, you know, I came of age in the 70s, and that was such a great time of filmmaking then.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So, yeah.
And speaking of the 70s, you were in Harry and Tonto, right?
Right.
Wow. What was that experience like?
That was crazy. That was almost like he traveled cross country doing the movie. They were in Queens and Upper West Side, New York, and then I remember I had to shoot a scene with Art Carney and Ellen Burstyn in Chicago. They were in Chicago for 3 days, and I shot a scene in a bookstore in Chicago, and then they flew the whole crew to Sedona, Arizona. No, to the Grand Canyon. We were at the Grand Canyon, and then we were in a bus to Sedona, Arizona. I mean, who does this? And then we were in a bus to Los Angeles. It was like, you know, we were like a Broadway show on the road.
Nice. Oh my gosh. So it was an adventure, to say the least.
It was, and it was my first movie. And you know, I was 21 when I did that film, and Art Carney won the Oscar for Best Actor that year, and Ellen Burstyn, who had a small part in it, she that year starred in Alice Doesn't Live Here, and she won the Oscar that year for Best Actress in Alice Doesn't Live Here. So here, my first movie, I'm 21 years old, and I had scenes with the 2 Oscar winners. Right.
Well, and a little less than 20 years later, you'd win an Emmy for 30-something. So there you go.
That's right. That's right.
So what was winning an Oscar? What was winning an Emmy like?
Oh God! You know, when they say your name, and I'm sure it's the same with an Oscar too. It's really like an out-of-body experience. You just can't believe they said it. You know.
Yeah.
Wow. Just like when they don't say your name, you can't believe they didn't say it.
Oh man. Well, congratulations on that win. That was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I just have one last question. Do you have any advice for aspiring filmmakers or actors out there?
Oh God, I'll tell you one thing. The business is different now than when I started, because when I started, if somebody was a filmmaker, they needed a lot of money to get cameras and film and development, and you needed, it was like a really expensive addiction to make a movie or make a short or whatever. And now people can listen. There are movies that are being shot on iPhones. You can get GoPros and iPhones, and I mean, there's kind of nothing stopping you from shooting something if you want to shoot it, right?
Right.
Or cheaper cameras, the Canon HDs or the new Sony. Everything's got 4K. You can kind of black magic. You can get cameras for not a lot of money and actually shoot movies on them. And
got the iPhone. It's that's a movie studio in your pocket.
Yeah, for sure. And for actors, this is what I always said. I mean, it occurred to me that this is the test. It's like, if you're a starting up actor, because now I've lived the life as an actor for so many years, and it's not a 9-to-5 job. I think nowadays everybody's got to think of making money more by their wits than, let's say, my parents' generation, which all had jobs and companies and but I think for an actor, what I'd said to a couple of people was, if you can see yourself doing anything else, anything else, do it. But if you can't see yourself doing anything else, if the only thing you can see yourself doing is acting, then do it, because it's a tough life, and there's a lot of people out there with tremendous talent, but you also do need luck. You need luck to be able to, get a manager or an agent who will get you in the door and get you in front of actual directors that are doing shows and producers, There's so many people that are just waiting tables and don't have a way in.
Right.
So it's really a hard life too.
So hard work and luck.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Melanie, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. The film is great. I hope everyone goes see it. I believe it's on video on demand and a digital release August 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And
okay.
1 week in Beverly Hills at the Music Hall,
July
27th. Yeah.
Terrific. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. I've been your host, Randy Unger. I'm with Under the Radar. And, thanks so much for listening. Take care.